record. Hello everyone, and welcome to Cassie's Kitchen Creations. I hope everyone has had a wonderful weekend, very relaxing. I sure have. Today I'm going to bake a cake, and this cake is different in principle from the ones that I normally bake, but of course it's a pound cake because I specialize in pound cakes. I can bake any other cake as well, but pound cakes are one of my most definite specialties. I was going to bake a classic pound cake because, as most of you know, in most African American homes, especially coming through slavery, it was normal to have a pound cake on your table throughout the week, and especially on Sundays after Sunday dinner. And all of the pound cake recipes that I bake and several of the others that you see all derive from that classic pound cake, okay? Which means that you'll have a pound of butter, a pound of sugar, a pound of flour, a pound of eggs. That was the whole concept behind the pound cake. Because those were ingredients, of course, that they readily had available. Now, I'm not going to bake the classic pound cake today, but I will bake it before the week is out. Because I've been contemplating a cake that I saw during February. It was in celebration of Black History Month. This cake was on YouTube. It was all over Facebook. It was on Instagram as well as TikTok. And I kind of waited it out just to see what the reviews were going to be. Because, you know, people post things and everybody, you know, want to try the latest and the greatest. So I've reviewed most of them and they were positive. This cake is by a lady by the name of Miss Johnnie Ruth Irving. And she's known, she's the mother of a church, and she's known for this particular pound cake. Most people know it as a condensed milk pound cake, but it's actually her pound cake recipe. And she shared it with one of her church members, and he has shared it with the world via social media. And everybody has tried it, and in celebration of Black History Month, they prepared this cake. And it's a way to keep her name going. From what I can tell, she was a very loving person, very giving, and very dedicated to her church. So I'm going to bake this cake today, and I'm going to see how it tastes for myself. I'm sure that most of the reviews are positive. I had a lady at my church who was also known for baking a pound cake, except she didn't leave the recipe to anyone. She used to call me on Sunday evenings and we would discuss that pound cake before the conversation ended. But she would never give me her recipe. She would give me suggestions, and she would tell me, oh, do this and make sure and don't forget this. And, you know, but I had already developed my techniques. But I did listen to her, and I took some of the things she said to heart. But my pound cakes doesn't have the taste that the one she baked had. But I have some really good pound cakes, I must say. Okay? So with that being said, that cake, the cake that I'm going to bake kind of reminds me of her. And the whole concept of, you know, the mothers of the church baking and leaving things unselfishly for us to carry on. So today I'm going to bake Miss Johnnie Ruth Irving's pound cake. And I would like for you to come along with me. And I sure hope I do this cake justice from the reviews that I have read. Now, as you know, I use White Lily all-purpose flour. Her cake calls for cake flour. That's something that I do not use, but I will use cake flour because I'm going to bake the recipe the way that she has it written. And I will post her recipe in the comments. Also, her recipe calls for salted butter, which is something that I don't use. I use unsalted butter, and I use White Lily flour. But I'm going to follow this recipe to the T. So you're going to see me use some ingredients that in previous videos I have stressed to you that I do not use. Now, I'm going to bake it accordingly. And as you know, I put spins and twists on everything. So I'm going to taste it, and then I will modify it based on my taste and see if I can come up with a recipe that I like. I'm sure this cake is going to be good because all these reviews have been very, 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 very positive. Okay? So it may be hard to beat this. So if you would, come along with me, join me in my kitchen, and we'll get started. Okay, so let's bake. Miss Johnnie Ruth Irving's pound cake, it requires 1.5 cup of salted butter. So that's going to be 3 sticks. So we're going to add the butter to the blender, and you must allow the butter to come to room temperature. Now the difference between this recipe and previous recipes that I've done is that you allow it to come to room temperature, but you put it out at night. You allow it to come to room temperature overnight for the best success for this cake. So you would take the butter, you would take your eggs, you would take them out at night and just sit them on your counter, and then the next day you would prepare the cake. So we're going to put, and I had to get half sticks because my local grocer were out of the half sticks, so I had to get the little blocks, what they call half-half, which are the 1/4. So it requires 6 of the 1/4 sticks of butter, or 3 of the 1/2 cup sticks, which is 1.5 cups of butter. Now, since I'm using a little more butter than I would normally use, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the blender on, and I'm going to put it on stir first and allow it to stir. Then I'm going to increase my speed on the blender to about 2, 3. I put it on 2, and I'm just going to cream the butter lightly. Because I'm using more butter than I usually would use in my cakes. Alright. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the sugar. This recipe calls for 2 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar. So you're going to add it to the butter. Then you're going to turn the blender on stir just to allow it to stir. Now I'm going to increase the speed of my blender. I'm going to put it on 2. Now I'm going to increase it to 4. Right? I would like for the creamed sugar and butter to look like ice cream. I want it to be very creamy. And that's the key to leaving the butter out overnight, as opposed to waiting like 15 or 20 minutes for it to come to room temperature. It'll fluff in 15 or 20 minutes, but when you leave it out overnight, you get a really, really, really creamy, really fluffy cream, sugar, and butter. It looks like ice cream, literally. So we're gonna let this blend. I'm going to scrape down the sides of my mixing bowl just to make sure that all of my sugar and butter gets incorporated together. And I'll push what's on my beater back off in the bowl as well. I want everything to get incorporated very well. This is my first time baking this cake, and I've heard so many reviews about it, and you must follow step by step the key steps that's involved in order for it to come out correct. Okay, so we're going to ramp up the speed on it. I'll place you on a brief pause. I'll pick you back up when the butter and sugar is creamed. Okay, the butter and sugar is creamed, and as you can see, it looks just like ice cream, as I said. Very, very, very creamy. Let's turn the light on here so you guys can see it a little better. Okay, very creamy. So now we have the butter and the sugar cream. The next step, of course, is to add the eggs. This recipe requires 7 eggs, 7 large eggs. And we're gonna add them one at a time. Okay, that's the first one. With this one, because we have more eggs, again, I always stir just so that I break the yolk of the egg. And then when I don't see any yellow left, I always add my second, my third, my fourth, my fifth, my sixth, and my seventh egg. All right. So you want to make sure that you get a really, really good mix on these eggs. And now we're ready for the second one. Because one thing I hate is to see a cake and it has, you can see the egg resting in it. Where the yolks didn't get all the way mixed. Or completely mixed, I should say. That was the 4th egg. That's the 5th egg. That's the 6th egg. And that's the 7th egg. And as I told you, classic pound cakes usually require like a pound of butter, a pound of sugar, a pound of egg. Of course, we're not using a pound of sugar or a pound of flour, but 7 to 8 eggs randomly, between 6, 7, 8, depending on the egg size, could weigh out to be randomly about a pound. So I think she based her recipe off of the classic recipe like all the rest of us did, but she just made some minor adjustments, tweaks, modifications, and made it her own. Alright, so now I'm going to scrape down the sides of the bowl because of course here you have a lot of eggs, a lot of butter. You want to make sure that all of those eggs get incorporated very well into the cream, butter, and sugar. Also scrape the bottom. You don't want anything to be resting on the bottom of your mixing bowl. Just make sure that everything gets mixed well. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to continue to mix. Place my speed on 4 and make sure that it's mixing well. And what I'm looking for, I'm making sure I don't have any yellow streaks of the egg yolk that's visible. Because when you don't see it, that means your eggs are very well incorporated into the cream, butter, and sugar. For those who say they can't cook or they can't bake or they burn everything, follow along with me and you'll be an expert baker. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to add is going to be alternating our flour and our milk. Now this recipe calls for 2½ cups of the cake flour. And of course, you know, when I make my modifications, I'm going to be using the infamous White Lily all-purpose flour, baking soda, baking powder. But this recipe does not call for baking powder. It does not call for baking soda. It does not require salt, but of course you use salted butter. So salt is in the cake. It just calls for 2½ cups of cake flour, And we're going to be using Eagle brand sweet condensed milk. And we're going to alternate between the flour and the milk. So I'll put my first cup of flour in the cake mixing bowl. Of course, I'm just going to gently stir it because I don't want flour everywhere. Okay, now I'll ramp the speed up to 2. And now I'm just going to slowly pour in the sweet condensed milk, about half a can. And of course, you know it's thick. So you may have to take your spoon and just kind of spoon it in, and that's fine. Okay, that's about roughly about half a cup. And this is a 14-ounce can of Eagle brand sweetened condensed milk. Okay. So now I'm going to add my second cup of flour. Now this one calls for 2.5 cups of flour. Okay, so this is my second cup of flour. Place it on stir. And now I'm going to add the remaining of the sweet condensed milk, which is the other half that's in the can. Just spoon it in. I see some people that were on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, they added their flavor to the sweetened condensed milk. You can do that as well, but I have heard Mrs. Irving's recipe, and it didn't state that. It stated to add the sugar and the milk, alternating, starting with the flour and ending with flour, and adding half of the milk at a time, and then adding the flavor last. Right. And see, I was kind of hesitant to try this recipe because I was thinking, man, 2 1/4 cup of sugar, and then I don't know if you guys have ever tasted sweetened condensed milk, but it's very sweet. And I was like, oh, that's going to be a lot of sugar. But we're going to see. No one said that it was too sweet. All right, so we'll just adjust our speed here to about 2. But I like sweetened condensed milk. You just can't eat a lot of it. So now I'm going to add the last half cup of cake flour. Okay. We're going to stir it. I'll increase the speed. And I'm just going between stir and 2 right now. Now I'm going to adjust it to 4, just to get a really good mix. I'm going to take it back down to the stir mode, and now I'm going to add the flavor. Now the difference between this recipe and my recipe is that my recipe usually calls for 1 teaspoon or 1.5 teaspoon or whatever the flavors you're using. This one says use a drawer spoon. Of course, you know, back in the 1800s, they didn't have measuring spoons. They just used regular teaspoons. But the measuring teaspoons and the regular teaspoons should be equivalent. So it calls for 1 teaspoon of baking vanilla, which of course, you know, I use Watkins. And they are not a sponsor of this video. However, this is my flavor go-to. Watkins has the best flavors. Okay, so you'll put 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Some of the recipes said 2, but I have the original recipe and it says 1 teaspoon. And it says a drawer teaspoon, which is just a regular teaspoon that you pull right out of the drawer. The next one is pure lemon extract. It says 1 teaspoon of lemon. Again, a drawer teaspoon. I'm going to slightly adjust the speed to 2. And that's just to make sure that the flavors are incorporated. And as usual, you don't want to beat a cake too long. You just want to make sure that all of your ingredients are homogeneous, that they are all mixed in together, that it's completely incorporated and it seems to be one. They're at one with each other. I'm just going to scrape this off my beater here, and then I'm going to again, so this one I have to release it. I'm going to scrape the sides of the bowl, of my mixing bowl. It smells so good, and I sure hope it tastes as well as it smells. And then I'm going to scrape the bottom and just fold it over on top of each other. That's all I'm doing. Just get a wooden spatula, a plastic spatula, and you just simply fold it over. I'm making sure that everything that was on the sides, that clings, everything that's on the bottom, that kind of coagulates in one spot, and that's like in the center of your mixing bowl, that it all gets mixed in. So as I turn it, I don't see any lumps or clumps. I don't see any sugar or butter or any flour or anything that doesn't seem like it's not mixed. So everything seems to be mixed well. I really like the KitchenAid blenders. They are really good blenders, and they are not a sponsor of this video, but I just like their blenders. I never have any clumps or anything when I'm mixing. I've had people ask me, do I own a bakery? Because my cakes are just, they say they're perfect. They've never seen cakes like that, and I never give my secret away. But it has to do with some technology. Then I'll place it back on here, lock it in place, and then once again, I'm going to place it on 2. I'm going to adjust it to 4. I'm just going to give it a really quick beat. Just a really quick beat. Because you can beat a cake too long and it will come out dry. And so while it's beating, I'm going to prepare my baking pan. Again, I use the Nordic ware, and this is going to be the smooth pan. And I'm going to spray it with the Pam baking with flour. Okay? And I always spray it over my sink because it makes less mess to have to clean up. And you always spray your pans very well. And make sure you get the flute. A lot of people don't, and they say, oh, those are non-stick pans. They are. But I have had cakes to stick in non-stick pans when I first started. And I learned very quickly that the key is to make sure that you coat your pans. I don't care if you grease them with shortening, and then you sprinkle the flour. Just make sure that you have blended and you have greased these pans very well. Now her recipe doesn't call for this, but of course I'm going to lightly sprinkle this one. I just like the crust that it produces. I'm going to lightly sprinkle, and this is not going to alter the taste of the cake. This just gives that very pretty crust. that you see on the outside. All right. So I am going to put my own little twist on this one as well, just on the crust. All right. So now I'm going to turn the blender off. I will remove the batter from the beater. I have preheated the oven already to 325 degrees Fahrenheit, and it has to bake for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Now, you know your oven just as I know my oven. I would suggest that after an hour, you check your cake to make sure that it's either ready to come out of the oven or it needs an additional 5 to 10 minutes, okay? Because it takes an hour and 15 minutes. But we know all ovens vary when it comes to temperature, when it comes to baking. Some cakes, they say an hour and 15. In my oven, it just takes an hour. Some maybe an hour and 5 minutes. It just depends. So make sure that you check your cake after an hour to see if you need to continue to bake it. The check is that you take a toothpick and you stick it in the middle of the cake all the way around and make sure that toothpick comes out clean. If it comes out clean, and the cake seems like it is already released from the pan, your cake is ready. No need to keep it in the oven, because the longer you keep it, the drier the cake's gonna get. All right, you want a very moist cake. All right, so now we're going to just place the cake in the baking pan, and you guys know how I do it. I just twist it around and around and around. I'm doing this just to make sure I get a pretty even distribution of my batter. And when it seems like it doesn't want to flow anymore, I just scrape down the sides and let it continue to flow. Okay? This cake smells so good. I think it's the lemon flavor mixed in with that sweetened condensed milk, if my chemistry is correct. I think it is. All right, so we have everything incorporated into our baking pan. Right. So as usual with any cake, you want to make sure that your cake batter is evenly distributed. Even though I poured it around and around the pan, I'm going to give it a good shake and a tap. I'm going to shake it again. And again, what this does is it makes sure the batter is even, and tapping it about 10 times, make sure that you're releasing those air pockets that's in the cake. So I did it about 10 times. Okay. I'm on a little harder surface. I'm trying to mask the tapping so it doesn't annoy you. All right, so now it's ready to go in the oven. Again, this is a smooth Nordic ware baking pan, so I don't have to adjust it in the oven. I can just simply place it flat on my rack, and I use the lower rack so that it will be flush. And the time is 6 p.m. my time, which is Central Standard Time. So an hour will be 7. So about between 7 and 7:15, the cake should be ready. Hour and 15 minutes. I will check it after an hour and see if I need to continue to bake it as well. Because again, this is my first time baking this cake in my oven. So I'm going to make sure that I try to get it as close to the original recipe as I can. All right. So I'm going to place you guys on a brief pause. I'm going to clean up, wash all these dishes, and get everything put away. And when it's time to bring the cake out of the oven, I will pick you back up. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, I'm back. Well, we're halfway through the bake. Of course, I turned the light on because I'm not one for really opening the oven, and I took a look at it. The cake seems to be rising fairly well. I know that usually when you use cake flour, a lot of the additives are already incorporated in it, which is why you don't actually have to add baking powder or baking soda, which is fine. I was just curious. We know because there is a leavening process that takes place when the cakes are placed in the oven at a specific temperature, which allows it to set, to rise, to fluff, to be so moist. But it seems to be coming along fairly well. So I just wanted to pop back in and let you guys know that I did check it. We have about roughly 30 to 45 minutes left depending on my oven temperature and the bake of the cake, and I'm going to check it after an hour. I also would like to encourage those who say they can't bake or that they burn everything to just, follow along with some of the recipes that I share. They are the classic recipes because what I have modified, of course, I don't really share online because I possibly will be writing a cookbook here in the near future. And it will be my recipes, the modifications. Just as this one, I'm sure it's really, really good. I'm sure it's really good. But I'm going to do my research, do my homework, and then I'm going to come back with a spin on this cake as well. And I'm going to make it even better. Right? So again, this is the Miss Johnnie Ruth Irving pound cake. You'll see it as sweetened condensed milk, evaporated milk, Miss Johnnie pound cake. It's all the same. Some people have already modified the recipe. They've adjusted the flavor. And whenever you're baking or if you're even cooking, as I said in previous videos, the recipes are there as a guide for you. So we, cook, prepare dishes, and then we go back and we'll say, oh, I wish I had added a little more of this, or it should have a pinch of this, maybe a dash of that. So what you do is you just take that recipe, and the next time you make it, you tweak it. You add the pinch of this, the dash of that. Include another ingredient, to satisfy your taste buds. That's why we call them recipes, because it's so easy and so simple to just simply redo it and make it yours. That's the joy behind cooking. I've been cooking for a long time. I might not look like it, but looks can be deceiving. I thank God every day. It's a testament to that I have definitely been doing something right in my life, that I look younger than I am. Praise God. All praises go to Him. Also with cooking and baking, it was something that I learned at an early age. Just going in the kitchen, not being able to go out because I had allergies really bad, listening, paying attention, and being instructed to mix this, blend this, beat this, add this in, fold this in, make sure to do this, chop this up. Now over a period of anyone's life, things become a habit. It becomes redundant. It stays with you because this is something that you do all the time. And that's what baking was for me, even cooking. And it wasn't until I went to graduate school in my self-proclaimed state of Florida, because I'm from Mississippi. I work in Alabama. I teach at a local university. But I lived in Tallahassee, Florida for 7 years. And of course, I love Florida. I love the sunshine. I love the blue waters. So that's my self-proclaimed home state. But I lived there, and you just hear so many negative stories about eating out and don't go to this restaurant and don't go to that restaurant and all this, that, and the other. So I said, I tell you what, I'm just going to cook. So I went to Publix, I went to Albertsons, which were local grocery stores in the Florida area, and I took home a grocery cart. My trunk was loaded, my back seat was loaded, and I just went in the kitchen and just started cooking. Much amazed to myself that, I could cook as well as I did, because coming out of undergrad, I usually just prepared things in the dorm that were fairly simple and fairly quick, but yet healthy, right? So anyone who say they can't do it, you can't boil water, you can't bake, yes you can. All you have to do is try. And with the recipes that I provided, you can simply follow along, listen to what I'm saying, use my instructions, you know, hey, bake the cake. And then if you don't like it, add something to it. Cook one of the dishes. If you don't like it, modify it. I give a lot of informative information when I'm baking or cooking, encouraging people to make the dish their own. Like if you're vegan, you can do that with the same dish. You know, if you're dairy, lactose intolerant, there are things you can, you know, omit the dairy. If you are trying to lay off your carbohydrates, you know, there are ways around it. I try to include all of that in the videos that I do, just to help people out, you know, kind of give you some pointers. And also, you know, if you have a recipe that you're unsure of, send me an email at cassieskitchencreations.com and just tell me what it is you're looking for, and I'll gladly rewrite the recipe for you. Also, if you would like to do your measurements in grams as opposed to cups, of course, you know, there are conversion factors that involve, and you're not sure, just give me an email, shout out, comment, and I will provide that for you in grams, and I will provide the liquid such as the milk in milliliters. All right. So with that being said, if you like any of the videos I have presented and you enjoy following along, please click the thumbs up. That's the like button. That simply helps to push your videos out into the algorithm so that others can see it as well. If you would be interested in seeing the videos that I post as soon as I upload them, please click the notification bell and click all. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do, because I have a lot of wonderful recipes that are to come. And they're not all baking pound cakes. I do carrot cakes and coconut cakes without coconuts because I don't eat coconuts. But if a client wants a coconut cake, then of course I'll add coconuts. I have pies. I do apple pies. I have an apple crumb pie that is delectable. I have a friend from grad school who constantly asks me for that recipe, and I provided it. Her brother loves it. Sweet potato pies without the eggs. There are ways. I also bake cakes that are for diabetics. If you know, have a health issue, if you want to be gluten-free, that's all you have to tell me, and I have the recipe for you. So I try to do a variety, and like as I said, I try to please everyone, because you have to be respectable of health issues or allergies that people have. Because like pecan pies, you have to use pecans, but if someone doesn't require pecans but they like the filling, there are ways around it. I've kind of played around with so many recipes over the years, and I get raving reviews about it, and they're like, man, you should just really open up a bakery. But who knows, once I retire from teaching chemistry, setting up a chemistry lab, and you know, just getting everything squared away on that end, I may. That might be something that I do, but of course then you want to be the owner, you don't want to be the baker. But we'll see how it works out. Alright guys, so I'm going to get off, and I'll let you take a break from me, and in about 25 to 30 minutes I'll pick you back up, because the cake should be coming out of the oven at that point, and I will do a taste test and let you know just how good this cake really is. Stay tuned. Okay, bakers, let's test the cake. It's been an hour and 5 minutes. We'll remove it from the oven. Okay. And this is what it looks like. Beautiful cake. Beautiful cake. Smells delectable. Right. So now we'll just take a toothpick and you'll place it in different spots on the cake. You just poke it and pull it out, and if your toothpick comes back clean, then your cake is ready. My cake is ready. All right. Oh, it has a few little crumbs here and there, but it's nothing, it's all dry. Yeah. Okay. So now another way you can tell if your cake is ready is that if you see it release from the sides of the pan, and when you shake it or bounce it, it kind of pops out of the pan. So this cake is ready. All right, I'm going to allow the cake to cool for like 10 minutes on a rack, and then I'm going to transfer it to the cake plate, and I'll bring you back and we'll do a taste test. You don't cut a hot cake, as you know, and if you do, you need to take your knife and run it through some cold water so that it doesn't fall or it doesn't crumble when you cut it. But I'm going to allow this cake to cool, and then I'll pick you guys back up and I'll let you know just how good it really is. Okay guys, the cake is ready. As you can see, it's beautiful and it has such a wonderful smell. This is the final product. It's still a little warm, but I'm going to cut a slice of it and I'll let you know how it tastes. Alright, I'm going to slice the cake and I'm going to do a taste test. Of course, you know, it's still warm. You don't really cut a hot cake, so I'm going to run this knife onto some cold water. I have a cake cutter somewhere. I just don't feel like looking for it at the moment.
I like to add some dried fruit. I'm adding some cranberries. These are purchased from Azure Standard. They're dried cranberries that were infused with a little bit of apple juice. And then I'm going to get them put into my big glass gallon jar and put it on the pantry shelf so that it's
So then we're going to take a slice out.
And now we are back to our morning, our day-like morning. And little Benjamin here is no longer hungry. He's starting to purr back here now.
This cake is beautiful. It is so moist, the fork just bounces. See, this is very, very, very fluffy. And it is a very nice texture to the cake. Now for the taste.
We're going to scramble up some eggs. Since we keep chickens and ducks, we have scrambled eggs just about every day for breakfast. I find that my kids really do need this protein to stay full. And then some of the children are snacking on some bananas and other fruit that we have.
It has a really good taste to it.
As they wait for me to finish up a hot part.
You can really, really, really taste the evaporated milk.
Our scrambled eggs here, a little bit of ketchup. Everybody's really starting to wake up.
I can taste the lemon, I can taste the vanilla. So I would give it a 2 thumbs up. I would say that all the reviews were accurate. It is a very tasty cake. It's not as sweet as you would think by adding the 2 1/4 cup of sugar along with the sweetened condensed milk. You would think it would be very, very sweet, but it is not. It has a very nice, light texture to it. A nice, just enough sweetness. It's really good cake. So I highly recommend it. If you're looking for just a basic, classic pound cake, try Miss Johnnie Ruth Irving's Sweetened Condensed Milk Pound Cake. It's really good. So at this time, I'm going to end today's video. I know I said I was going to make a classic pound cake today. I did not. I wanted to try this pound cake because it has just gotten regular reviews, and every time I go to YouTube to watch something, this cake pops up. So I guess that was a sign that I need to go ahead and bake it. So I did, and I will bake it again. But I'm going to say this, when I do it next time, I'm going to try a different flavor than vanilla and lemon and see how it comes out. I've been thinking about that sweet condensed milk. I'll let you guys know on the bake once I do it how it comes out and what flavors I actually used. On the next bake, I will do a chocolate pound cake, and I'm also going to do a classic pound cake, which is a cake from the 1700s, 1800s. It's from Pennsylvania. It's also been shared numerous times. This is one that's for the books. It definitely takes a pound of sugar, a pound of butter, a pound of flour to bake that cake. So I'm going to do that one. I have to do a couple of bakes for an SM week this week for our chemistry department, biology department, physics. We're having a STEM week to kind of encourage students to major in STEM, and I decided that I would do all of the desserts for them. So I will be doing a classic pound cake. I'll do a chocolate pound cake. I'm going to do a red velvet cake. I will do a sour cream pound cake, which I've already done, and that video is already posted. And I'm also going to do the Biscoff cake, using the Biscoff biscuits. So stay tuned, grab a seat, hold on. I'll be right back with you probably around Thursday evening when all of this is going to take place, because I have to have this for Friday lunchtime. So Thursday I'll bake about 5 cakes, and the ones that are new and which videos are not posted on YouTube, I will post those videos for you. All right. Thanks for watching. Again, like, subscribe, click that bell, which is a notification bell, so that all of my videos will come to you as soon as I upload them. I hope you guys had a wonderful weekend, and I pray that you will have an even better week. See you on the next bake.